Welcome to week one in our 3-week series of webinars dedicated to sharing our experiences in building health and safety excellence into our operations in Milliken & Company, and more recently supporting organisations to do the same with their communities and culture. These webinars are not about exploring concepts or theories. We want to focus on how to make the change and make the change last. Over the past 30 years, we've been evolving our understanding of what building a health and safety culture from the bottom up truly means, and have squeezed these experiences into 9 how-to principles, which we will be sharing with you, 3 each week over the next 3 weeks. Each week will be presented by a different pair of practitioners that have spent many years working with Milliken sites and partnering with clients to help them with their journey towards zero. We would appreciate lots of interaction and engagement from you all, please. There will be plenty of time for questions and answers each week at the end of each session, and also moments in the presentations where we ask you to survey your opinions and your perspectives so we can share those results and include those in our feedback. You will see the Q&A feed option in Teams. And if you please use that for your questions, then we can use that to help direct your answers also. In addition, Menti is one of the applications we will be using to help gather survey results. And therefore this week, if I can encourage you to have your browsers open and be logged into menti.com, that means you'll be ready then for the moments when we ask you to participate. So please take a moment to do that and be ready for when those moments arrive later. So just to introduce myself, I'm Chris Poole, Director of Client Development for Performance Solutions in Europe. Joining me this week will be Didi Eriksson, Director of Client Engagement, and 2 fantastic practitioners, Bill Kelsey and John Stevenson. As we all know, everyone's health and safety must come first in business, both for the health and security of our employees and, of course, the bottom line of the business. But in these uncertain times, achieving the right balance between healthy lives and a healthy livelihood has never been more challenging for leadership.
Thanks, Chris. This is Didi, and I couldn't agree more that we're in these challenging times. In Milliken & Company, we have learned how to lead differently, to build trust between employees and management so that health and safety becomes something we can all own and improve together sustainably. Building stronger environmental health safety processes together teaches us the importance of care and collaboration and gives us the confidence to understand and manage our risks. That brings both health and safety and financial performance benefits.
Thanks, Didi. Before getting started, let's just take a few minutes to introduce Milliken & Company. We are headquartered in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and are a global, innovative, industrial, diversified manufacturing company specializing in textile and chemical products, and have been exploring, discovering and creating ways to advance people's lives since 1865. We have expertise across a breadth of different product families and also services. Our products include specialty chemicals, floor coverings and performance materials. And we work to improve the world every day by adding value to people's lives with our products, improving health and safety, and helping make our world more sustainable. In addition to our products businesses, we also have a service business, which started in 2007. This is the Performance Solutions business that we're all part of. And this was established in order to share our learning and expertise with other businesses. We now, 13 years later, have a global team of practitioners that devote their time and energy to helping clients strengthen their safety culture and engage their employees as owners for their process. As you can see, we have a global presence consisting of more than 40 manufacturing locations, over 7,000 associates across 8 countries, and we're currently manufacturing and supporting more than 11,000 products.
Mr. Roger Milliken was CEO for approximately 60 plus years, and he held two foundational beliefs in regard to safety. Those are that all incidents are preventable and leadership is accountable. First, let me share with you a little bit about how Milliken got here. As other companies, Milliken's safety process was driven from the top down. Management had full control of what was done. Even though we cared about the safety of our associates, we didn't know how to make it better. 30 years ago, we experienced a huge disconnect with our associates. For the most part, the safety strategies, whether it be policies, education, procedures, they originated at the corporate level, and when they came down to the individual sites, each site would implement these initiatives in their own way, and this would drive variation. The gaps identified were very significant, and this limited our results. The biggest gap was we were not allowing our associates to be part of the process. For many years, we hired associates for their hands, and even job titles reflected this. We referred to a first hand as an associate that ran the piece of equipment. A second hand was their assistant. Third hand was on down the line. We were undervaluing our greatest asset, our people, and asking associates to simply load krills, push buttons, push carts, and not think and share their ideas. Therefore, we continued to hurt people and couldn't see our improvements with our approach. When we started talking to our associates and asking their opinions, which was brand new to us, we realized they had a lot to say.
This listening process started our Milliken safety journey. And as we realized more and more what we needed to change, we had to state what those issues were and then address them. At that time, the facts were these. Our safety metrics were purely reactive, not proactive, and did not focus the attention of our leadership on the physical and mental well-being of our people. Our safety performance for accidents had plateaued and in some areas were deteriorating significantly. And more than anything else, our people were stressed. Our processes in terms of health and safety were not consistent across the company. We had bright spots in some places, but nothing was being implemented systematically everywhere. Realized we had fantastic people, but most of them we were not engaging in improving safety and health processes each day. And our leaders were not spending enough of their time face to face with their teams to understand and support their increased engagement in improving safety and health. We had been a strong company focused on continuous improvement, but had never connected those methodologies and tools with health and safety before. And as a result of all of the above, we did not provide safe and healthy workplaces for our people. On reflection of these facts, we realized key changes were needed. Specifically, we needed to set out a clear vision to engage and involve our people as owners of the process, change the way we measured, change the questions we asked as leaders and listen and understand the responses, focus much more on behaviours and attitudes rather than just incidents, strengthen our systems and disciplines around standards, work to engage all of our people in cross-functional teams focused on safety and health improvement, change the way that we led, and understand that safety and health are the foundation of what would become our performance system.
We realized to truly impact the way our associates worked, they needed to be included in the safety process. Milliken then adopted a bottom-up approach that still stands to this day. Today, our safety way is associate-driven. Our associates own the Milliken safety process. This means we empower them by listening and providing the tools for associates to implement. We created a foundation that transformed the leadership in our sites to be in a supporting and coaching role rather than a managing role. Associates are part of safety steering committees and subcommittees. These teams grow significantly with knowledge and skills. We have seen that with our associates' contributions and use of risk reduction tools, we have been able to create a safety process that is not reactive, but preventive and predictive. To transform the leadership from that managing to more of a supporting and coaching role, we had to provide the tools and framework to let go. This was achieved by teaching leadership the importance of serving instead of directing, asking associates for feedback on a situation and then utilize that information to drive actions. In other words, empower and giving a new way of leading. We needed to transition associates from watching to owning through active participation in steering committees and subcommittees, giving them a new way of working or enable them. Provide the training and time for associates to develop advanced skills and lead teams and engage them. By strengthening this framework, we will achieve the excellence where everyone is a safety owner, reducing risk together. Leaders let go and become resource providers to facilitate ownership, and then ownership is built, and then we need a system to sustain that excellence.
This has been a long and rewarding journey that's provided huge benefits to all aspects of the company, in addition to the health and safety area. Engagement and ownership from our people are key elements in our Milliken Performance System, which is how we run our business and has allowed Milliken & Company to survive and thrive in challenging times. As an organisation, these changes have delivered not only cultural change, but significant performance improvement. We've seen a 38% reduction in risk, 90% improvement in control of risks inside of our locations, and 70% reductions in incident rates as a result of that risk management. Of course, we still strive for zero, which we understand is a mindset, not a target, but we acknowledge and celebrate continuous improvement along that journey.
Now that we have reviewed why Milliken needed to change and what needed to change, let's start to review how we achieved these changes. We believe there are 9 principles that are the key on how to achieve safety transformation. A principle is what we learned and more fundamentally how we made that change. The principles are a combination of activities and behaviors, not just what to do, but how to leverage the value of that activity so all can benefit from it. We have the principles organized in implementation sequence, though some can be applied in parallel, and once built need to be sustained and improved forever in the pursuit of a zero mindset. The first 3 principles set up the environment essential for the process to work. The next 3 provide us with those much needed tools to make opportunities available for routine engagement. And the last 3 principles reinforce the constant support this process requires and bring up components for continuous improvement. Now let's dive in and start discussing the first 3 principles for creating the environment for health and safety excellence with John Stevenson and Bill Kelsey.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Good morning and hello. I'm Bill Kelsey, a practitioner with Performance Solutions by Milliken, where I've spent 7 years working with clients in many industries, helping them incorporate the 9 principles of safety excellence in their organizations. I've worked with Milliken for more than 30 years, where I've seen these principles in action and worked with them firsthand.
Good day, everybody. My name is John Stevenson. I've been with Performance Solutions by Milliken since 2015. And since then, I've helped many different sites of different industries and different companies to launch and implement the 9 principles of safety. So Bill, would you please help us understand the first one?
Certainly, John, thank you. The first principle we'll discuss today is a clear leadership vision for ownership. Simon Sinek, in his book Start With Why, introduces his readers to the golden circle. Basically, Sinek describes the golden circle in this way. Most every company and organization in the world knows what they do. Johnson & Johnson knows that they make medical products. Delta Airlines knows that it transports people around the globe. Your company knows what it does, and you know what your company does. Companies know that safety is a must-do. They know what safety is. Some companies know how they do what they do. I'm sure good companies know how they are successful. Some companies can articulate how they keep their employees safe through policies, mandates, and procedures. However, very few companies know the why they do what they do. As far as operations, the why is not profits or making money. That's the result of the work. The why is the purpose behind their existence. In safety, keeping people from getting hurt, otherwise known as a lower recordable incident rate or lower injury rate, is the result of a good safety process, but not necessarily the why. A strong safety vision and a strong safety process starts with the why and the purpose around safety. It's not just checking the box and putting in another program. We have to articulate why we are keeping people safe. Like Dee Dee showed earlier, Milliken was like many companies in that they were a very top-down driven company. Mandates and policies were developed at the top and driven down to the plant and even the individual level. Because many of these policies were ambiguous, but were a mandate to be implemented, people in the plants felt that this was just another corporate program. This attitude led to very limited or reluctant buy-in at floor level. Because of this reluctant buy-in, results were mediocre at best, and the overall process functioned because of the fear of consequences. When we at Milliken realized that the safety process needed to be changed, we changed our view of the roles of the safety process. We realized that the ownership of the process needed to be where the most impact could be felt, on the floor. We realized that the owners of the process needed to be the ones who really knew the process best. We also realized that management or leadership role in the process was to be supportive and not directive for the process to function. As we changed the direction of the safety process, we developed the associates on the floor to become leaders and rely on management for support rather than direction. This change in thinking and operating empowered everyone in the process to be owners of the system. A strong safety vision is one that gives everyone in the organization not only a role in the game, but an actual piece of ownership, a stake in the game. Since the process is owned by the workforce, leaders must let go of their grip on the system and become resources for the teams. And since ownership without a structure or a system is chaos, we, the workforce and leadership, need to build a process or a system that will drive and sustain excellence of the process. In Milliken, everyone from the CEO to the newest production associate is an owner in the safety process. This is a fundamental principle that is at the foundation of our safety process. We know that each person must take ownership for the safety process to be successful. When leaders let go of their grip on the process, we see the merging of three components of the safety process: We see leadership, associates, and the safety system. Where leadership and the safety system intersect, we see a new way of leading for leaders, a way that empowers others, and leaders shift from directing to serving. Where we see associates and the safety system intersect, we see a new way of working, from merely watching the process to owning the process. And where we see leadership and associates intersect, we see engagement happen. Associates transform from following the process to leading the process. Everyone in the facility shares ownership in the process, and they work from an ownership perspective rather than just complying with rules. At the nexus of this diagram is where the true impact is seen. When leadership empowers associate teams on the floor to own the safety system, we have the maximum impact to the safety process. At this point, let's get your feedback about the safety vision at your location. Use the internet browser and go to menti.com. You can enter the code to enter your response to the question, at your company, how would you characterize the safety leadership vision? Is it driven from the top? Is it owned from the bottom? Or there is no safety leadership vision? As you respond, the results will begin to appear on the slide, and we'll give you a couple of seconds to do that, a few seconds to take care of that. We only have a couple of responses. Now we're starting to get a few more in. We're starting to see some driven from the top is where most people are seeing a lot of their safety leadership vision. All right, thank you. This is great. Have we got any more to come in? All right. Remember, if you have any questions, submit them into the chat. Thank you very much. John, why don't you take it from here and we'll start talking about the second principle.
Thank you, Bill. The second principle we'll discuss today is designing ownership into everyday life. When we think about an organization, we typically think of three distinct groups of people. You have leadership, you have the management, and you have the employees or the associates that are on the floor. Leadership are the ones who essentially set the vision for the safety process. They establish the mission, values, and principles. Management provides the support through both time and funding, and also methods and procedures to the team. The management group also coaches the teams in new concepts such as leadership, providing valuable feedback, proper delegation, and recognition for success. With that coaching support for the employees, employees feel more comfortable taking the reins of ownership of the process and begin to hold each other accountable. They truly own the process and become responsible for the progress. So when we build our safety system, we build it with the foundational support of that leadership that provides support, and that support is essential for everything to stand up. But the real ownership of the process is with the people. The people who are part of subcommittee teams and are working together in order to reduce risks, reduce hazards, and to make things safer. So as the employees understand the vision and how leadership supports, it's important for that to establish the pervasive safety culture. The gaps to that desired culture can only be closed with 100% involvement. Everyone from the office to the floor. The involvement is on both an individual level and a team level. And only through that sort of attitude will the safety vision be fulfilled. The ownership of employees is developed over time through organizational and personal transformation. So we at Milliken ask every associate to really think through and answer these questions for themselves. What is my safety role? What are my safety measures? What is my safety standard work? How do I own, care for, and improve safety? What are my own personal safe behaviors? And how do I fit into the entire system? Answering these questions establishes a connection to caring for everyone and establishes a true safe culture. So the perception of ownership reflects the culture of importance of safety. So let's take a moment with the poll and find out how you perceive ownership at your company. And I see a couple of people have already answered. So the question is, at your company, what is the common perception of keeping me safe on the job? Is it 100% responsible for the company? Is it a 50-50 shared responsibility? Or is the perception that everybody holds individual responsibility? So if you would just take a moment to answer that question. So thank you for answering as they come in. It is interesting, we're seeing a pretty even split on how you feel like the perception of keeping me safe on the job is. Yes, thank you very much. And at Milliken, we have, experienced through the years each one of these different perceptions. And as we get more safer, we feel that we have more individual responsibility for us to be safe. So if you'd like to submit a question on this concept of designing ownership into everyday life, remember to submit your questions in the chat.
Thank you, John. Our third principle today is commitment to sacred time and sacred space. Building an excellent safety process demands the wise use of resources. In any plant, office, hospital, or other facility, time and space are finite, limited, and therefore very precious resources. When we devote time and space to an endeavor, we elevate that endeavor to a higher status than most everything else. Consider the amount of time your associates spend in the worksite. How much of that time is dedicated to safety? Think about the total square footage in your facility. What part of that is set aside for safety? By devoting these resources, we encourage teams to take control of the safety process in the facility. Unfortunately, many plants tell teams that they can only have a corner of a bulletin board for safety, and their time for safety must be outside of the work time. This is the reason we refer to safety time and space as sacred. It's set aside during the workday and workspace for safety. This is an example of a typical associate's week in Milliken as it relates to safety. You can see the activities each day and what the time adds to each week. Every associate in Milliken dedicates at least 5% of his or her time to safety each week. An efficient, effective 5% of everyone's time produces tremendous results.
Their time is used to complete safety projects. Some teams work on long-term initiatives, solving problems to root cause and implementing high-level countermeasures. These type of projects leverage a problem-solving method such as DMAIC. Here's another example of a project completed at plant level. The team saw a problem, realized the hazard, analyzed the issues to discover the root cause and fix the problem. But the important point is that they had time to work on this. The team was almost virtually eliminated the hazard related to that work. Had they not had that time to work on the project, people who were doing the work could have been injured. Even our plants that are very mature in their safety process continue to take time to find and solve problems. This is one of our plant's results for the past 10 years. Notice that the plant has completed over 440 projects with an average risk reduction of about 67%.
And in sacred spaces, measurements are posted and tracked. These measurements are more than the typical charts of recordables and safety posters. These measurements dive into the leading indicators of safety excellence, such as involvement, risk reduction, investigations, and so forth. Again, in many places, wall space is at a premium. So to devote this precious wall space to these kind of measurements demonstrates the facility's commitment to safety excellence. Further, many mature sites and plants in the safety process have dedicated safety meeting areas. These are areas where associates and team members can gather to solve safety problems, to post results, and to have meetings and brainstorming sessions. When we commit resources, we are making a very important investment in our process. When we commit time and space to safety, we make an investment in the plant's health and well-being. Our commitment tells everyone that safety is not just another program here today and gone tomorrow. It's a process for excellence. Dedicating finite resources is a resounding affirmation to our safety process.
Thank you, Bill. To sum up, we've covered 3 of the 9 principles today. We talked about committing finite and limited resources of time and space to achieving the safety excellence. We discussed how safety is part of an everyday routine for everyone in the facility. And finally, we talked about leadership having the vision of safety excellence and being the foundation for an employee-driven safety process. At this point, we'd like to answer your questions. So please submit your questions in the chat box and they will go to a question queue where our moderator will be able to review those and submit those to Bill and I. And while we wait for those questions to come in, if you would like to contact Bill or I directly, here are our contact information. So after the webinar, if you feel like you have another question or challenge that you'd like to get our opinions, please feel free to contact us. Chris, would you please help facilitate the questions coming in?
Sure, thanks, John. It'd be my pleasure. And thanks to both you and Bill for the presentation you've shared with us today. We've had our first question come in, so I'll address this one to Bill, if that's okay.
Certainly.
What's the most common obstacle that you have found when building an excellence culture with your clients?
Thank you for that question. When we work with clients, the biggest obstacle we find is the reluctance of leadership or management to let go, to let associates do what they naturally can do on their own. Management tends to like to hold control, almost to some degree choking. And when they let go and let associates lead processes like safety, then we see excellence blossom. Many associates are leaders in their own communities, but we don't value them that way in our plants. So the biggest obstacle is leaders letting go.
Thanks, Bill. Are you able to share with us any examples of how you've been able to encourage that letting go from the leadership team?
Yes. When we were building our safety process in Milliken many years ago, we were working with associates on the floor, and for many years, like Dee Dee said, we valued people only for their work. We basically told people to check their brains in their locker. But what we found out by listening to people was that, like I said, that many of our associates were leaders in their community. They were the chief of the volunteer fire department. They were Sunday school teachers. They were leaders in civic organizations. So we tapped into that leadership to have them lead the processes, and we had to make a conscious decision as management to step back and see them do that. We weren't going to let them fail by any stretch of the imagination, but we had to let them do what they could do best. And they took the reins and absolutely were superstars at doing it.
Chris, if I could contribute here. So I've had several clients where the managements are essentially there for a reason, and the fact that in their past they have been very strong doers and able to execute, and sometimes from that perspective, particularly from a safety perspective, they may get impatient and frustrated. And because of that nature that kind of got them to where they are today, they are more directive in nature and tend to command and control about what to do. And from some techniques I have used and encouraged through interaction with those type of leadership is just helping them learn some new skills around specifically around delegation and feedback. So by them learning how to properly delegate responsibility and using delegation as a method to develop people so that they can work on the hazards, work on the risks, and create solutions, then those type leaders that can change their mindset to think about delegation rather than directing are going to be more successful in creating this ownership at all levels from a safety perspective. Because a big part of safety is trust, and that's trusting your leadership to help lead and provide guidance and to provide the vision for you to move forward. So working on some different leadership skills around delegation and recognition have been very important when dealing with some more directive managers.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Bill. We've had a follow-up question on this topic, actually, which I can also offer some perspectives on, but please add to those if you can. The question is around what material or model do we use to help leaders transition from this directive approach to coaching approach? And one of the things that we have learned inside of Milliken and now take to our clients is a model, a framework basically that helps leaders move from their current state to the desired state. It's called the Leadership Challenge, and it basically identifies role model behaviors that they aspire to develop, new habits to develop, and then coaches them step by step through the development of those habits. And we've been using that, as I say, extensively over the past couple of years with our clients and found this to be very effective for those individual leaders. We also support that model with additional spot and boot camps and coaching events with particular roles such as shift supervisors, for example, or first line supervisors, as their role in particular in this process is very significant. So we have a proven methodology which we worked on inside of Milliken and now use outside with our clients also on that. Okay, an additional question, please, gentlemen, and maybe John, if you want to start with your response to this one first. The question is around engagement, and it is, do you have any tips to expand engagement beyond the first few willing volunteers in teams? So how do we reach the kind of following groups, following those initial excited, safety-minded folks that we often find already in our plants?
Yeah, and that's important, right? Is being able to get everybody involved. So, you know, you have the initial group of people who are real excited about safety and who get it, who care for people, who want to make their environment safe, make their workplace safe. And those people, like you said, are the ones who are generally are going to be quickly involved. And through their involvement, and because they're interested, and because they are attuned to safety and want to make a difference, their probability of success is really high. And as they become successful with making the place safer, let's say through reducing risks or resolving a safety hazard that's been present for years, as they become more and more successful, then they're going to generate that positive energy, that positive movement within their peers to continue to be involved. And so it's important for all the teams to be able to recognize and identify the hazards so that there's something always to work on. If someone is interested in working and in helping to reduce the safety risk and improve the area, the teams have to have some opportunity readily available that they can get people involved. And through that combination of early wins, early successes, and having opportunities for people to work on, you're going to be more likely to get that increased involvement and increased engagement with everyone in the plant.
I'm going to just add one thing to that, because John hit the nail on the head. Success breeds success. The other thing that helps out a lot is to make safety fun. A lot of times people think safety and they either think it is boring or it is tedious. Safety's hard. Safety's hard work, but safety can be a lot of fun when you involve people. And when people have fun, they like to get more and more involved.
Thanks, both of you. Excellent responses to a great question. We've had a couple of similar questions come in, so I'm going to put them both together and then invite you to respond if we start again with John this time. So it's really around how the resistance that you might experience can be overcome when it comes to reaching more and more people within the workplace. So the first question is around, have you had any resistance amongst your colleagues or the colleagues within your customers, and how do you deal with that resistance? And I know you've started to touch on that with the last answer, but there's more examples. And then secondly, kind of connected to that, is how do we convince management that it's okay to exchange operations time for dedicated sacred time, which I guess is a resistance in the mindset of management. So although the two questions are a little bit different, it would be good to hear your perspectives on that topic of resistance and the sacred time piece in particular.
Sure. So the first topic on resistance, resistance is probably going to happen at one level or the next. It's unrealistic for us to think that from the beginning, everybody is going to be 100% supportive and 100% involved in something as basic and fundamental as safety. So the resistance is going to occur. Now, I typically see, two broad types of resistance. One resistance is the people who were kind of on the fence, right? They believe that it's the right thing to do. They think it's the direction they should go, but for one reason or another, they're just a little hesitant to get involved, maybe a little extra work. But they're kind of the wait and see group. Then you have the other group that is going to be much smaller, is that you'll have those people who are just absolutely positively not going to participate in safety at all. And they are going to be the very few minority. And so typically I encourage clients to somewhat ignore those few, that the minority few who are extremely resistant in their actions. The only caveat to that is if that resistance is destructive in nature. So if you have very resistant people who are destructive in nature, then that has to be dealt in other ways. But what I'm talking about is basically, the few who are just not going to convert and be connected. So I encourage them to kind of ignore those people and really work on that majority middle who may be on the fence, and really and show them that the benefits of creating an environment that that you look out for your neighbor, that you are concerned with everyone's well-being, and that you are making progress for improvement is the best way to start winning over those people who are in that middle area of being on the fence. So basically from a resistance standpoint, you have some that you don't want to spend a lot of time on unless they're destructive. And then you have others who are on the fence, who will and eventually participate and get involved with, from a safety perspective, as you move forward and have success. Bill, did you have anything specific before we, resistance, before we hit that second question?
Just that the resistance a lot of times comes from how the change is managed coming in. A new process, whether it's a safety process, new machine or whatever, is a change in the plant culture. And to overcome the resistance, we have to have a good change management process to affect that change. It doesn't matter, again, like I said, what the change is. If you don't have a good change management process, then the change will fail. So if we, like John said, if we look and focus on those people on the fence and we reward the behavior of participating in the safety process, reinforce it however you reinforce it, then we will see positive change.
Now, I was going to add something to that as well, Bill. I think that's a fantastic point. And one of our big learnings about change management has been the importance of improving the awareness of what this change is and listening to and understanding the desire for the individuals to actually want to support that. So when we take the time to do that, actually the journey towards the new way of working is a lot smoother. But very often organizations jump in with the change itself rather than the time to understand where people are right now and what it is about the change that they're concerned with, so we can make sure it supports what they want to achieve with it. So I think that's a fantastic reflection. Okay, can we move to the point about the kind of sacred time conundrum? How do we free up the right amount of time to do the work, but also deal with the fact that we are in business and we need to satisfy our customers?
In a lot of places, and I'll field this one first if that's okay. In a lot of our facilities, we build in that time into the budget. Really, we build in time for people to meet. The 5% that I showed, we build into the people's day. Now, that does not mean that you look at 8 hours a day and say that 5% every day. That's not exactly how it works. Typically, our subcommittees meet on a weekly basis when they are in the plant. So for some of our people, it may be once a month that they are actually off the floor in a meeting, but they have other activities. They have audits that can actually be done while they're working. So thinking creatively about how do we facilitate this, it doesn't have to be, okay, we're going to shut the plant down and pull everybody into a meeting. For some places that may work, but for other places that doesn't. So we've got to be creative about how we involve people. But the critical thing is that sacred time is so precious for the people to see the trust that leadership has. And once they see that, a lot of times they go the extra mile and more than make up for that time with improved productivity on the floor. A good foundation of safety is a foundation for other performance improvement in the plant.
Yeah, and thanks, Phil. I'll just tag on one point that I encourage leadership to think about is that it has to do with their fundamental values, right? As a person, do you care for other people? And do you value who they are? And do you value their family? Do you value the person individually to enough that you can create time so that they can make their workplace safe? So I always take some time with the leadership team to understand and help them express their values in a way that can essentially justify to themselves that it's worth the time to spend on safety, to create the trust and to care for people, to ensure that they go home safely, that they go home to their families who are depending upon them safely. So it's a combination of tapping into their individual values and also being creative about how you establish that sacred time, as Bill was saying.
Thanks, both of you. I was just going to share another, lesson that I learned when I was a young leader back in the day, and it was a very valuable lesson. And that was that actually I didn't need to have the solutions to every problem. I just needed to know who to talk to encourage them to find the solutions a lot of the time. And when this sacred time challenge came up in our particular business, actually we asked the folks on shift to come up with the solution rather than working out how we could allocate their time in the right way to make both things happen, both operations and safety work. And they came back with very innovative ways to ensure that we met our demands, but also that they had the time they needed to get together to solve problems. So the lesson was leaders don't actually have to have the answers. They need to build the relationships to encourage the answers to come from their people. And if we work like that, actually, we can make big progress together. That was something that I found invaluable as a young leader. And I think we find the same in our clients today. OK, we've got a couple more questions that are connected. They're related to the current crisis that we're all experiencing. And they have a theme of engagement, but I'll ask both the questions and again, ask you to comment on them. So the first is around how to engage associates when we have the challenge of social distancing and mask wearing within our operations. Obviously, it means we can't come close together. And also where we've got environments where we are not able to use technology to help support that engagement. So have you had any experience inside of Milliken or with your clients when it relates to that distancing? Let's say that's the first question. And then secondly, along the same vein, where we have a lot of remote working taking place right now, where many folks are not actually going on sites, how do we stay connected and encourage engagement with those communities? So I'll leave both of those questions out there. And John, again, if you'd like to comment on it first and Bill to follow. Thanks.
Yes, so certainly with the new environment and the new challenge we have, then this concept of engagement will take somewhat of a different approach. So historically, engagement has been, let's physically get together, get closely together, meet together as a team, physically in a small room. And now with our challenges around COVID, those norms may not be a viable solution for the long term. So working with clients, we've established some creative ways that teams can get together, and one is by using technology. And of course, the technology can be in many different forms. They can be with Microsoft Teams or a Zoom meeting, and so that is the digital format. But likewise, we also encourage some recorded videos, recorded sessions, some communications around safety. Certainly some physical boards around safety that are established in places around your site, so that associates can come and look at those boards on a periodic basis and understand what's happening from a safety perspective. They can understand the projects that are being worked. They can also help recognize the success of reducing safety hazards and safety risks. So a combination of using the technology, which is all electronic, and then also using old school physical boards in your site so that you can help communicate and allow people to stay connected to the activity that's going on.
John, both very good points, and spot on to what I was going to say as well, so I'm not going to say a whole lot more other than just emphasize that communication is key. Certainly social distancing has I don't want to use the word isolated, but that's the best word I have right on the top of my head. But a lot of people, even in plants, being socially distant and having to wear masks and other PPE might feel isolated. But if there is that communication that continues, that people still will feel involved. And as they can work on projects being socially distant. I've got a client that I'm working with now that it's a challenge, but we're meeting it by meeting together in a large enough room and a small enough group that we can stay socially distant and with masks and still solve problems.
Thanks, Bill.
And then to address the question about remote work. So at Milliken, every time that we gather together as a team, we begin that session, we begin that meeting with a safety moment. And that safety moment may be just understanding how many consecutive safe days we've had, what was the last near miss or injury, what are the corrective actions associated with that, what is a safety message that's relevant for my day. So embedded within that is the culture that safety always comes first. So even in our remote work, even in sessions where we have a Microsoft Teams meeting, then we begin with safety, because it is still represents that value. It still represents that it's the first thing that we talk about, even when we are discussing and having a remote meeting. So establishing, and if you have established things that you do on a normal basis when you're physically together around safety, then still use that and perform that even if you're meeting on a digital platform.
So I do want to challenge you all to start every single meeting, whether it's live or virtual, with safety. That putting it first puts the priority on safety.
Thank you both. we're coming to the end of our time for this week. So I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you to our presenters today, Bill Kelsey, John Stevenson, and Dee Dee Erickson. Thank you to our audience very much for joining us and for your fantastic questions and interaction. We really appreciate it. As you know, this was week 1 of 3 weeks. We'll be covering principles number 4 through 6 together next week. We sincerely hope you've enjoyed your time with us. We very much enjoyed the interaction. You will have noticed a QR code on the screen. This will take you to a feedback survey, and we'd very much appreciate if you can take a little bit of time to scan that and to give us your feedback. So please take a couple of moments to do that. That helps us understand how you're feeling, whether we've pitched this right, whether the answers we're giving are very helpful for you or not, and that will help us improve things before the session next week. So please take the time to do that. Thank you all again. Stay healthy and safe, and please take the advice Bill left us with. Start your next meetings with health and safety, please, and that will help your culture improve. We look forward to seeing you next week.